Welcome, everybody. Our journey continues with session number 2. If you were not here for the first session, we just heard from Bill Vendley and Megan Campbell with the Fetzer Institute, and they guided us on a beautiful inquiry and discussion about our stories, leaving us with the concept of a shared sacred story, which is just beautiful. And as Bill said in his session, we tell our stories in order to live. And so as we continue here, I'm going to introduce Jody Fry, a longtime MSR member who's had a remarkable journey, and he's going to share his story, if you will. And so as he's sharing, begin to think about, what is your story? How will your journey unfold professionally, personally? How does your research shine through and provide a thread of constant access to source and your purpose in the world? So Jody Fry, Regents Professor at Texas A&M University, Central Texas, where he's Program Director of the MS Leadership for Sustainability program. His present research, consulting, and executive development interests are focused on maximizing the triple bottom line through spiritual leadership to co-create a conscious, flourishing world that works for everyone. So I will turn it over to Jody without any further comment to finish his introduction and tell you how he got there and who he is. Jody.
No, I'm just the son of a car salesman living in Texas is really who I am. I mean, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful to MSR. It's given me purpose, and it's certainly a sacred journey. And got it on the first session, and I'm going to share with y'all kind of where this all started, and kind of it's a 23-year story, and I certainly didn't start it out to be a 23-year story. And I think, and I've divided it into 4 eras. And regardless of how far you're into your career, you'll resonate with one or more of these. So, and I've got a timer on professors are like gas in a jar. We expand to fit our container. I love that. And container to contain you too. So try to hold my talk to about 25 minutes and then put you into to groups to consider the basic theme of my remarks here. So let me share my screen. So the broader theme is, and of course, I first found MSR in 2002. And as I'll talk about, my journey with spiritual leadership started about 1999. And so I was floundering around, and MSR became an immediate home to me. And so I hope you'll hear the gratitude for all that as I go through here. And what I want us to explore as part of our time together this next hour is to sort of keep this in mind. We'll come back to it, and we'll put you in groups to explore this one question. Where am I on my spiritual and professional journey, and how is this manifesting to further a conscious, flourishing world? And this question is the proposition that, if you're in MSR, we're conscious that we are living a spiritual journey. But we don't often think about, in fact, I didn't really think about it too much till I put this together to share with y'all, is that we can view our professional journey as a spiritual journey. And so I'm very much going to speak to that as I go through these different stages of how I've explored spiritual leadership. And so I'm going to go, this is just sort of kind of to give you a brief overview. There was the beginning that lasted from really 1998 to 2008. And then at 2008, we developed the spiritual leadership model evolved, and it's pretty much stayed the same till then. And I focused on organizational level spiritual leadership through about 2013. That's the year we published our book on maximizing the triple bottom line through spiritual leadership. And then I shifted. I felt like I didn't really have much more to say at the organizational level. So I began to focus down at the personal transformation level, both in my own personal journey, as well as by research and teaching. And then along about 2015, sort of in co-alignment, I began to move more into the elaborating on how we can bring spiritual leadership into sustainability to truly create a flourishing world. And say that is maximizing the triple bottom. So I'm going to kind of go through this. So 1999 to 2003 was really a challenging time for me personally. I began my work here at Texas A&M in 1997, and I was teaching out of a brand new leadership book. This was the beginning of the new millennium. And in that book, for the first time, a management book, I saw the need to have hope and faith and a vision. And that in the new millennium, we needed to lead from fear. These tend to lead from fear. And I also read a couple of books. One was called Leadership and Emotion. The other was called The Healing Spirit. Out of that came this realization that there are two fundamental human needs that are universal. The need for a sense of purpose, that our life has meaning and makes a difference, and a need for membership or belonging, or a loving community within which we can thrive and be understood and appreciated for who we are. So I started thinking about what would leadership look like, hope, faith, and love, to the extent, how could that come to play to satisfy these two needs, and then what would be the result of that? You know, it would be a truly sacred place. And so you can see these are representative. I'm not going to go through them. The representative pieces that I published, or we published during this period. So in 2008, my very good friend Jerry Bieberman was a part of that and supported me in that. So out of all that, here is the eye-fogging spiritual leadership model. And at the source of spiritual leadership is exactly what, to me, is the beginning of that is to go inward to find a source of strength greater than ourselves, and to become more present to that as we move through our day, to not be trapped in anger and resentment in the past and worry and fear in the moment. And from that place, we can create this hope and faith in this vision, grounded in the values of altruistic love, and then they're shown there. And these then serve to satisfy these two fundamental needs, the need for purpose and then 20-something years of research. There are now two this papers that have been show that there is strong quantitative support for many of these outcomes, both at the personal level, personal spiritual leadership, as well as the organization. And one of the strongest findings over all of these is that membership is really the strongest commitment, the strongest predictor of organizational commitment, as well as psychological well-being. Purpose tends to truly motivate us and be focused on performance, focused on us out in life, making a difference in pursuing our callings. It's sort of the, going inward to find a source of strength greater than ourselves, to go out into the world, to truly love and serve others, greater sense of self-transcendence. And the reason that we couch this at this level is because we believe that this is the fundamental spiritual dynamic that underlie the world's spiritual and religious traditions. And we had to get at this level if we were truly going to take this out into organizations. And I believe the incredible effort that Fetzer is now undertaking with the stories and bringing the religions together. I think as these unfold, you'll see this common theme, and hopefully the conversation can take place at that level, because to me, that is the unifying force that if the religions could embrace together, could truly move us forward. So now the second, and I want to say that through these first two or three phases, I really didn't think too much about, of course I was in education, but I really wasn't thinking too much about social impact, about what can I do to go out. I was empowering others, educating others, but I hadn't really sprung to action. And this was true here. We first wrote about the triple bottom line, sustainability and conscious capitalism in 2008. And then the next 5 years, we published our book. And at this time, I thought, well, I want to get out. I want to work with some folks and, maybe, get out and work with some organizations personally and write this book. And, the whole idea behind the book is to academic, to take it out. And unfortunately, it was more academic than practical. And but what I realized through this process, and this was a spiritual journey in and of itself, is that that's really not my job to be out there and do that. My job is really to support those who do. And that was a true revelation to me in this faith. So now this particular phase is the one that I really want to share with you in some depth, because this does represent the spiritual journey. And I'll share some with you about my course on leadership formation is required. And I don't know of any other place in the world that will allow me to do this. I teach a graduate course in leadership formation that has these components I'm going to talk to you about here. But there's the key aspect that I've really built on since 2009 is our piece on being-centered leadership at the levels of being as a spiritual journey. And I'm going to go through this in some detail because I believe it is truly central, not only to my work, but to the issues that have been raised already here today. Because I became dedicated to that, and my wife signed up for it too, and I decided to do it with her, is we went through a 3-year spiritual director program, and I became commissioned as a spiritual director in 2017. And right after that, I had a sabbatical. And so what I did, and of course we ended up with a library of books, I pulled the books out, all the books out on the spiritual journey and spiritual formation, the role of discernment in decision-making, then of course, dark nights of the soul, and how those should be embraced, and from that true spiritual growth takes place. And so that has resulted in 3 pieces, the last of which we just published last month, one on spiritual development and executive coaching, the second one on the numinosity of soul, Andre Delbecq's legacy. I was so blessed to be able to do this, and I really feel that my calling is to build on his legacy. And I was able to see his work, my work in the context of his. And then finally, this piece that just came out in the Journal of Business Ethics on a framework for leader, spiritual, and moral development, where we couch these 3 aspects in the levels of being and show how leaders in moral development, spiritual development, change as you move through these levels. Jerry talked about this, and he really got at what we get in that paper. So I want to talk to you some about the levels of being. And I don't know, let's see, I'm running out of time here, but I do need to go with this. So there are 5 levels of being, and if you go, and I give Mark Krieger credit for this, and but if you go back and read the piece in 2009, Mark couched these. We did not make these up. These come out of 5. He examined 5 religious traditions: Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, and Taoism, and found that these levels are inherent in the spiritual formation in these religions. And I'm not going to take time to go through each in detail, but I'll run through them real quick. I've got a slide on each of these. But the key here is at level 3 is the awakening. It's the porthole. It's the portal. And it's mindfulness and working on consciousness in the now is really the gateway. It's the door through which we move through to self-transcendence and interconnectedness, and all to the extent we can experience it, the non-dual, being one with is, one with all that is, and able to truly live in opposites. For example, the distinction between leader and follower disappears. And so I'm just going to hit these real quick. There's a physical observable world, about being a human having and a human doing. That's who we are. That's how we observe. That's what the neoliberal paradigm promotes in consumerism. He or she who dies with the most of wins. That's what this is about. And then it's created in a social psychological way now through vision and values and social construction of reality. And this is the way really to look at. We dominate others relentlessly through the various mechanisms of rewards and punishments and desires for worldly happiness. And the level 3 way of being is entering into the current moment, being committed to look at your stuff, your egoic programs of happiness, mainly that you childhood, and how they drive us to this day to keep us in levels 5 and 4. And to the extent we're able to stay more in the moment, well, then we become more self-transcendent, and we are able to be other-centered and truly love and care for others. Is the level at which spiritual leadership, the level that very few that we may all reach through peak experiences, are examples of that in organizations and business. So then my course on Management 5310, Leadership Formation. These are the texts I use. I walk into class, my average student's 38 years old, and there are a lot of them are military related. They're really at a great stage for being receptive to this work. And I walk in the verse 9 and I say, this is an invitation for self-exploration. You can take it or not. You can still make an A in this class. But hopefully there'll be some self-examination and self-revelation as you go for this class. And of course, those that really apply to it is Eckhart Tolle's Practicing the Power of Now. He's Don Kabat-Zinn. To do mindfulness, we meditate in class. I love Byron Katie's Loving What Is. It's a technology for identifying the thoughts that cause suffering. And most importantly to me is the Enneagram. I use it at the spiritual director program now. We teach the section on the Enneagram. I can't say enough about how powerful it is for now. I want to get into the sustainability aspect of it. And I know I'm talking fast, but in 2015, I was asked by Jonathan Gosling and Peter Case to give a talk on spirituality and ethics at Exeter. And I noticed there that they had a One Planet MBA. So I went back and it was really cool. So I come back here at A&M and I say, this is really neat. Why don't we do this? And a really cool dean at the time, Larry, he says, let's do it. And so and also at that time, Jonathan and others out of Exeter and some out of the World Wildlife Foundation formed the One Planet Education Network, and we became a One Planet school. And it published 3 pieces out of that. the latest was published last year on global leadership for sustainability in the journal. One of the things that I really, many of you know about the sustainability goals and been talking about taking this out in the world and how can we have social impact. That link up there will take you to a page that has each of these on here, and you can click on it and it will go into it in depth. And what I can say is each of these is an arena within which we can operate both locally and globally now that we have Zoom to truly enter into networks to have social impact. And this is what I've done recently since the open experience and then creating our master's degree within the sustainability, that there are literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of networks out there. And I'm going to share you a couple of examples that I've been operated in. So I would encourage you to explore these. And you may find something that resonates with you. I'll come back here. Here is the spiritual leadership model. And what has evolved since that is our global leadership for sustainability model. And I think you'll see, basically, it's the spiritual leadership model that is focused on sustainability, where we have a hope and faith and a vision for sustainability, still grounded in the values of altruistic love. But now we talk about it in terms of operating at levels 3 and 2 to develop a global mindset for sustainability. And also in doing so, developing 2 fundamental ethical principles for sustainability that I'll share with you in a second. As the vision for sustainability and the leaders are grounded in these values of altruistic love come together, that's the 2-headed arrows. And we tap into and create spiritual well-being, again, a sense of purpose. And that's one thing about the sustainability world. There's no shortage of purpose in the sustainability world, changing the planet, climate action, social justice, and so forth. There's also a possibility of a very strong community. And so these networks that are out here that are operating in these different arenas that are represented by the Sustainable Development Goals represent incredible opportunities for us to truly begin to take our life's work, our education, and to begin to truly go out and have social impact. And so I'm almost done. And so here are the 2 ethics for responsibility. One is the ethic for remote responsibility, where you take stakeholders that aren't directly organization is not directly interested in and give them full consideration. Also, acceptance of stakeholder legitimacy from a moral point of view, and that means move. First one would be the remote responsibility would be taking into account and directly addressing, say, child labor or exploitation of third world workers. The second one would be care and concern for, say, destruction of the forest and the indigenous communities. Okay, I have 2 more slides here, and now I want to talk to you about, I'm chairman of the board of the One Planet Education Network now, and that's a whole long story. But our vision is to connect, educate, transform, and mobilize change agents for sustainability. And this is our conceptual business model. And so you'll see here at the top is the demand side. These are where the change agents reside, various communities, organizations, networks, communities of interest or practice. And then here we are as educators, the supply side. What's come out of this really, to me, is a new paradigm of education, because the world we live in, we build it and hope they'll come. We develop a sustainability master's program, and we hope they'll show up. But what we're doing is we are finding networks, and through our own personal contacts, individuals who are active in those networks, and we are treating them as nodes for entry. And so what we're doing then is we are meeting with where change agents congregate with various purposes. I'll share a couple of these with you in a second. And we listen. And we bring our bundle of interest and opportunities, offerings, we call them, but we listen, and we listen to their issues. And then we have 60 fellows right now as a part of the One Planet Education Network. If you're interested in that, you can contact me. You can check out our website. We have an ecosystem map of our fellows. You might want. And then we will communicate with the fellows about what are these issues and bring together a team to then sit and work. And then, of course, there are educational opportunities that have to do with the issues. Most of these people come out of the sciences, and have no leadership or business training. So it's incredibly exciting. We've just started really working into this. We have about 7 or 8 initiatives going, and very excited about it. And I believe, and of course, more and more here at my university, we now have a strategy and a mandate to go out and have community impact. And so I'm out talking on the rubber chicken circuit. I go to the Chamber of Commerce. I share what we're doing. For Austin is a hotbed for sustainability. So I'm sustainability officer, and so various aspects of that. It's really, really exciting and energizing. And so here's an example of what we call open change agent engagement initiatives. The first one, and there's several, but is Educate Global. And this is out of the UK, and they're building a lot of resources. They have an incredible number of videos and trainings to train teachers in train them how to teach sustainability to students in classes and have them do projects and everything. So they're doing some incredible work. And so they're looking for subject matter experts to design and present various training modules. And so we're meeting with them, trying to teach me a lot to help them. We have the Pachamama Alliance, which focuses on climate change, and they've got a mailing list of 100,000 volunteers, and they're committed and active on climate change, especially in South America, and individual transformation through immersion experiences. And they're asking themselves the question, can we create a human development framework for change agents? And their issue is all these change agents that are passionate about sustainability, but how do we move passion to action? What is the catalyst? And the word that we use is the transformation catalyst that can move this. And I can see that MSR has a lot to say about it. Then my final slide is to break us full circle. See, my journey has been certainly a pilgrimage. And when I started, I had no clue. And of course, the technology has made a big difference. I had no clue I was going to end up where I am today. It's been a great ride. And that's the one thing about it, giving up trying to figure out what my great purpose is, and that it's written in the sky. And if I can clear the clouds, it'll be written on the whiteboard, and I can figure it out. Basically, what I do is try to live my spiritual leadership model to the best of my ability, and whatever shows up is what I'm supposed to do. And this is what has shown up for me. And I've been in this profession a long time, and I have never been more excited about opportunities to go out and have an impact on others. I suppose, and this is again the opportunity for inner exploration. I would like us to spend the rest of our time together, see what happens, what shows up.
Thank you so much, Jody. I'm going to jump in because your audio is a little bit choppy. So if we can dance here, I'll go ahead and set up the breakout. Beautiful to hear your story. And yes, there are thousands of organizations working now at this point. And the challenge really is not hopping on board with one, but it's evolving so quickly. It's really requiring a new way of being and a personal capacity, which actually we'll get to later in the colloquium as well, to live and work and research in a generative space. So thank you, Jody, for that open sharing about your life's journey. And so we're going to move into breakouts, seeing about 25 minutes, a little more left in the session here. You're going to go into rooms of about 4 people. And I'm putting the question in the chat so you can reference that during the breakouts. And really explore, look at your own journey, and share with each other about where you've come from and why, and where you're going and how, and all of that fun stuff. We will see you back in 10 minutes.
At the moment, yeah, so everybody's unique. And what's happening with me at the moment is I have a new grandchild, and you hear these stories about have a child like a mind like a child, and children are optimistic, and children are like, there's so much that you can learn from. I'm learning. I'm just obviously not saying this for everybody, but it's just so much that I'm learning from being in the presence of a 2.5-year-old. It just sounds crazy, but it's just I'm learning about love. I mean, there's just this love pouring out of this kid, and his immediacy, what's going on in the moment, is the only thing that matters. And so I just wanted to say that. There are a lot of other things happening in my life. I'm teaching business students ethics and getting them to meditate and all that stuff, but this is quite a great experience for me right now. That's part of this. I'm just recognizing that it is part of my spiritual journey to see childhood and see the wonders of their experiences afresh.
Thank you, Tom. I bring a lot of wonder to looking at
I
new
can add
babies.
something.
Go ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah, yes. I was talking about in the session, just like in the split session, that I'm teaching since last 15 years in different business school in Poland. And my belief system is that, just like I always talk about the positivity with my student. I have a couple of students here, just like, and I always talk about the positivity, and you can say the positive side of the life. And I always provide the hope to the students, specifically to the foreigners who are coming here to study. You can say one of the slogan of my life is beautiful. I always say to my students, life is beautiful. If my student who has been my student since last 10 years, when he will see me, he will say, this is the professor who has the belief life is beautiful. So I always repeat these sentences too many times in the classes. And just like I try to create such type of a very positive environment. You can say if some students are, you can say, just worried about their jobs, about their courses. I always try to convince them that this is temporary. If you work hard, it will be finished, and there will be a sudden, you can say, you will get a good job, and you will be part of, you can say, some good organization as well. So this is some sort of, you can say, the therapy for the students, that I always create hope and positivity in the students. So this is how I create positivity in my professional journey of my life. So this is one of my main agenda, that how to create happiness in the life of the people, specifically to my students.
May I speak now?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Corinne Young, and I have been working all of what you're saying now for a long time. And I want to thank Jody, all kinds of people, Dorianne and Judy Neal, that what I'm working on now is, I was a professor for many years and program director. I'm working now on some models that I can share possibly with business schools. Particularly right now, I'm working with Jesuit business schools. And so I have taken, and where I am is to take three principles or paradigms or whatever that I have used individually, but now am integrating. One is responsible leadership, which I'm using the Carl instrument, which is validated for that. Then spiritual intelligence, which I'm using the SQ21 from Cindy Wigglesworth. And then the sustainable mindset that is, came from PRME and other things. And I'm working in such a way to create something, not necessarily theoretical, but it will have theoretical implications, but something that will have social impact, as well as obviously what I believe is you have your own personal spirituality journey, and by awareness of yourself, then you can make sure, or not make sure, you can certainly be an invitation to others. So I'm really grateful. I'm happy to be a part of this group. I loved the retreat, and I was lucky enough actually to go into a room with Jerry, and of course Jerry's was a professor for so long at the University of Scranton. So Scranton is a Jesuit university. That we were just two of us in the room. So I don't know if that's coincident, but thank you all, and any input and ideas would be greatly appreciated.
Of course, I know Cindy very well. We published a piece together on levels of being and spiritual intelligence. And Isabel and I worked together for a long time on sustainability mindset. Well, wonderful human beings and wonderful work that they're doing.
Jody, I was very interested. This is Robert Woodcock from Malibu, Pepperdine University, where I'm spiritual life officer in the graduate business school. And the reason I mentioned that is because my journey is pretty much the opposite of all of you. I started off in ministry, 25 years a minister, went on and did a DMint, studied in Europe, theology, learned ancient Greek, biblical Greek, lived in Greece for 15 years, came back to the States, had to transition, and got into education, did my doctor of ministry. And out of that doctor of ministry and transformational leadership, then worked with some of my fellow graduates and a couple of professors, and we started a spiritual directors training institute in Ashland, and it was kind of tangentially related to Ashland University and Seminary. It's now its own independent thing. I was one of the founding people in that, and now I've moved on, but my journey just kept taking me all through those processes, and now I'm in a business school, an MBA, and I teach in the MSML, Masters in Management Leadership program. I teach strengths-based leadership, collaborative process. So I've got this unique intersection now. And this is my first time in MSR. I've got your article in spiritual leadership, Jody, in our business review magazine that I hand to all our students when they come in at orientation. But so anyway, it's just been kind of an opposite sort of journey, but I was so delighted to hear your experience at this stage in your life with spiritual guidance, spiritual direction. And then I believe it was Corinne who just mentioned Jesuit. Part of my spiritual direction training was with a group of Mennonites who had hooked up with a group of Jesuits in Warnersburg, Pennsylvania, and created a spiritual direction training program. And so I was able to get both this kind of Protestant flavor and this Jesuit flavor. And so all that to say, I'm in this hot seat right now where I'm trying to integrate all of this, and I'm teaching, and I'm kind of doing more interfaith work. Although this is a Christian university, our graduate students are very much kind of an interfaith, group of people from all over the world. So anyway, I'm just sharing all that just to kind of hop in the conversation and make connections and just become familiar and appreciative.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tag me. Let me know what all you're doing. It all sounds very exciting.
Yeah, I just sent you an email about the One Planet stuff. Or I'm going to send it right now. Thanks.
Hear more about what you're doing.
All right, thank you.
If you haven't heard the Odd Couple of Pema Chodron and Dr. Greg Boyle, look them up on YouTube. They are just delightful. Father Greg is a Jesuit priest, and he founded Homeboys, where he is, you know, takes in former gang members, you know, and gives them a new life, you know, through love and acceptance. And of course, Pema, very famous Buddhist nun, and the two of them together are just amazing. So yeah, I'll put that out there.
Yeah, put that in the chat, please.
So Jody, this is Judy.
Hey, Judy.
You were lost in thought. Sorry. I'm just wondering, especially on your spiritual journey, because it's clear where your professional journey is going, at least at the moment, and that you trust your guidance and keep following it, and that's so beautiful to hear you share that. And I'm just wondering, what's next on your spiritual journey, if anything? How do you see that evolving?
Well, you know, it's a day at a time. I mean, you know, ultimately you can be real spiritual, and you know, that's the levels of being are such a powerful framework. And of course, it's 5,000 years in the making. I mean, it's not like it's brand new. And how you can be at multiple levels in one day. And so, you know, hopefully the practice is, I think the main thing is to maintain my practice so I can live at those levels at a higher level, and be able, you know, joy in life truly comes from helping others and loving and serving others. And in these crazy times, recognizing the fundamental dignity and humanity that we all have, and being able to come from that place. And ultimately, it's just a journey, and learn from what shows up. You know, I'm looking forward to what shows up. It's basically my journey. I have faith it's going to be exciting, and I have faith it's going to take me where I want to go. And I have faith, if I'm open to my God, I'll have opportunities to grow closer to that being, that God of love that I worship.
Thank you. I also want to thank you for your generosity and your love of so many people who've come to you because of your work. I don't even know how many dissertations your work has been used in. I do know, when I did a literature review search, you are the most quoted person in the whole world on spiritual leadership and on spirituality in the workplace. So your work has just been so central to the field, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm even more grateful for our friendship. I'm so glad that you're here today.
You know, you were the first person I met in MSR in 2002. You took me by the hand, introduced me to everybody. So we go back a long way. But you know, it's not about me. You know, whatever gifts I have, I just try to share.
Thank you so much. There's several hands up, and I'm going to go off, but thank you, Jody.
Vikram, then Helen, then Ashra.
Jody, I had a question of you, and I think when you looked at those two models, one was sort of a personal spiritual journey model, and second was sort of a modification of that to sustainability. I noticed that the practices sort of got dropped when you looked at sustainability and leadership. And I was just wondering whether, you know, when you look at leadership and especially management leadership at organizations, without a practice, and it could be anything, can those elements of deep spirituality that should sort of impinge management decisions really sustain? Because removing the practice element of it, to me, sounded like removing some of the underpinnings for what a spiritual journey should be.
Well, I mean to convey that impression. I think if you take a look at our article, and it's open source, sustainability is an open source journal, that the levels of being are in that article. And but the reason we emphasize these two ethical principles of sustainability is we see those as not having been articulated as emerging or being emergent from those practices and essential principles if we are truly going to have a sustainable world. So organizations and individuals, yes, must have those values of altruistic love. You can only develop those other-centered values through a spiritual practice. But in addition to that, we're going to go out, we have to have this ethic of a remote responsibility and ethic of care of the disenfranchised. We can't just be about maximizing shareholder wealth today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. I certainly did not mean to convey that impression.
Got it. Thank you.
Helen.
Hello, everybody. Just want to say hello. I'm Helen Hellaby from England. I work at Sheffield Hallam University. I just wanted to say that I am currently working on my thesis looking at spirituality in leadership. And as I started joining this group today on the Zoom, I started noticing many names, and obviously starting by Jody Fry's name. And several other names that I have continuously used in throughout my thesis. And I was just telling two new friends I've made, Barbara and Anneli, that I almost feel I've met celebrities in connection to my research. So I'm very honored to have met, through this forum, basically putting names to the faces. So very honored to be here. Just want to say, and especially very excited, for example, to meet you, Jody. Also, I remember names such as Judy Neal, Mr. Biberman, Mirthoff, and so forth. So thank you.
Thank you.
We're all fans. How beautiful. Ashra, go ahead.
Just a short message. When Jody was talking with Judy, it came to my heart that just publicly to say thank you to Jody for his openness. What he said, he's just open to what is coming. So what I also felt, his kindness and acceptance when also I wrote to him and he introduced me to this wonderful community. I'm very, very happy and so thankful, especially.
Jody, any last comments? We need to start to move this to the finish line here, sadly.
Well, I just can't thank y'all enough for spending this time with me. It's I get a lot more from y'all than you'll ever get from me, I believe. It's just such a wonderful journey. And kindred spirits don't just grow on trees, and they're not just out there walking around on the streets. I mean, that's really what MSR has done, is brought us together as a community. You can't have these conversations with everybody. And this is what I love, and this is where I love to be, and this is what I love to do. And just thank you all for being here.
Beautiful, warm, fuzzy. Thank you so much. So
for all you do, and your incredible work that you're doing with this.
It's an honor and a pleasure to serve. So, then that's what came up listening to this conversation for me, that common refrain these days, that challenge of balancing being and doing. This is a thread through all of the sessions today and tomorrow. How do we create impact? Corrine, I believe you said that, yet keep ourselves grounded and in touch with source and what is emerging. The way I say it, it's how do we see the need and serve the need, because it's very challenging to do both. And when you focus just on one, it's incomplete somehow. So certainly the help of community. Looking forward in 20 minutes to hearing.